How can its multiple stories be unlocked in 140 minutes? Has the movie aged well in the nearly 40 years since it came out? And will Borman include some really awkward sex thing? Not very, sort of, and yes.
Yeah, that's the story of a lot of things on this channel. Anyway, welcome aboard to Writer's Showcase number 117. Feels momentous somehow. I don't know why, but it does. Anyway, you had fun with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament last night. Go check that out if you would like to see more. That was definitely fun. Anyway, let's bring on the guests, starting off with Yuri.
For some reason, we've just got rampant degeneracy. I don't really know what's going on here.
It's like he's reading my thoughts and then telling everybody about it.
Indeed. Anyway, let's bring in Count Valerian.
Well, rampant degeneracy, that certainly sounds like Borman, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Psychotically so, yes.
He was just high as a kite.
Psychedelically so, then.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, so Valerian, you're eating, correct?
Yep.
Alrighty, cool.
At the moment.
All right, I've got a piece that I think I'm going to end. I either need. I'm not going to give too much context. I think it explains itself. It's like kind of a story I wrote for a girl. I think it's going to end my God's Like Gospel thing. I'm not sure. Again, it's like everything makes perfect sense, and then it makes zero sense while I'm working on this thing. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. Basically, it's just it's a physical manifestation of like my bipolar issues, I guess. But okay, so I want to start by saying the title for the story is kind of a clever pun, because there's the Song sisters from Chinese history, and this girl's name was Mai Lin, and her and her sister were both named after the Song sisters, but they were Vietnamese. But it was like, did that make sense? It was like the famous Song sisters. For whatever reason, her dad hates the Chinese, with good reason. Like, you know, China, Vietnam, this whole thing. But named his daughters after like these famous ladies from, I think, rather recent Chinese history. What's that?
Yeah, the Sung sisters. They're an interesting law. I think there were like three of them. One of them married Chiang Kai-shek. One of them married Sun Yat-sen, and one of them married, I think, the prime minister under the nationalist Kuomintang government in like the 20s, 30s. So,
okay, yeah, I thought that's what it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Madame Sun Yat-sen was kind of pro-communist, and I think she became titular or president of China or something under the PRC.
She became president?
I think I remember reading about that.
It's possible, yeah. It's like there's only one position that matters, and it's the chairman.
Yeah,
right?
The only. Needless to say, that would have been a purely honorary title.
Yeah, right. So we need a first woman president. All right, you're going to be president.
Well, there's also the fact that, I mean, she is the connection with Sun Yat-sen, so gives them a certain legitimacy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all math. It's all just a big game of math in which a lot of people die.
Well,
But anyway, I guess I'll start going with this,
sure.
and we'll see how long I go. Because I know it's less than a half-hour read, but I don't know how much. And I'll probably get bored and stop at some point. A song for Mylan Dong. Which part was not okay? He asks, days later, wondering what it was worth, and missing out on the fact that he could wonder, that he could sit and even roll the situation over on his mind. Relationships, and the way that any word could have a million meanings, then from those meanings, infinite more interpretations. All the while, he can sit inside a bath or at a desk or eat a sandwich. And he can do this because people do things, and because that is the way of it, and because he is privileged. It is like a weight that he has carried around but been unable to feel. He does not truly believe that if no one is there to receive his expression, that it can have any weight. But there is so much more around him all of the time. The need to be doing anything when existence is enough. How can there be a crime when no one is wronged? And what is this obsession with crime? It makes no sense to hold grudges. They hurt. Why hold them? Can't we just get past the fact of the matter that race and face are things? Can't we just dive into the enjoyment that there is matter here to enjoy? What? Do I have to justify my existence just to eat? He wonders. And he is not anywhere. And the anticipation is that he should be somewhere or should be doing something. This is, in fact, violence, the fundamental first violence, and yet the world goes on. And which part was not okay? The question is, what are you speaking in reference to? Am I being paid by the word or the page or the feeling? How do I justify myself for the moments that I pass? Can I entrust it to another to give meaning, even when I am unintelligible? These are all good questions that I have no right to expect anyone to answer. What will I eat tomorrow? There is no famine, so I can assume something. Not everywhere, not everyone has that right. And what can we do about it? I do not know. Can we just take away our races and genders for a moment and just sit together? Existence is fundamentally weird. There's no commitment here. I don't want anything specific from you except that you keep reading. I don't even care how you interpret the words except answer me this. What is there to fear? Which part was not okay? Can't we just give in to love? And what does it mean to be asking all of these questions? Reality is so beyond form. And nothing is ever firm, so why make these forestalling pronouncements? There's nothing here for anyone else to use. I just don't want to be alone. And which part was not okay? Let me finally set a scene. We are sitting outside of a Greek restaurant, and I tell you that I've been in a mental hospital 3 times before. What is your reaction? So many questions. First, am I dangerous? Well, I am a man, and physically I'm strong, but does that itself imply danger? Second, why has your mind gone here so quickly? I just told you I was sick. Should it be not moved to sympathy? Third, I am the one who is having these thoughts. So are they mine? Or yours? Or are they shared? And how can they even be expressed? And fourth, how do I justify maintaining your interest? Is it compulsory? Am I guilting you into continuing on in this exchange? And fifth, I am the one who paid for dinner. Where does that fit in? Where does it fit in that I paid for your pants? Does it fit in? If so, why? If not, why not? Where does anything fit? How do we connect? Yori, I just think it is so interesting that we meet in all of these different countries. And I cannot quite grasp your accent or how I can enjoy it so much. What is a country and why should I read Marx? Should I read it because I like the way you look or because he had something valuable to say? These are good questions, and I have no right to any expectation of an answer to them from anyone, let alone you. I have no right to expect anything from you or any more than you do from me. Why do we bother distracting ourselves in this way from the reality of our own existence? Because property is theft. Because that existence is put into jeopardy by powers outside of our own. Because there was a homeless woman on the street earlier who was clearly lying to us. And so we gave her money, not because money is intrinsically of value, but because life is. Isn't it so? And isn't it interesting that we meet in all of these different countries? But there is no God or anything above that. These are just the opiates of the masses. And opiates lead to no good. In fact, you might say that they lead to no God. What is this moment right now that is happening constantly and never stopping? It is a strange thing, much like our relationship through all of these different countries and the ability to trust anything at all ever. Except that you can, really. So to get back to the previous point about how you were supposed to react to my saying that I have been in mental institutions, I really have no idea. I just have more questions. And I have no right to expect an answer to them of you or anyone. I just have these questions. Can I sell them? Will they feed me or buy me pants? And you tell me that I should not be dependent upon my parents because you never ask yours for anything. What are things? Property is theft. What is anything when I just like your face and the way that you speak? How it has this singing quality in my head, but I can't replicate. And the general space that you fill in the universe? What is to be expected of life beyond that? Certainly not an answer to all of these questions. You don't need to justify it. And why should I? Where is the implied threat? And what in any of this was not okay? I do not know. I am actually quite content with things. I think I will make some ramen later. Not instant, but with bone broth and vegetables from the freezer, because that's what I like to do. I don't know, man. I'm just thinking of the way that you say, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. And I'm worried that this will be taken the wrong way. Because if I am honest, I don't know why anything is anyway. I don't know. And no one has a right to expect an answer from me because property is theft, because property is violence, and I have my rights. They are fundamental. There is this thing called the world. And what is the country? Well, it's a place where Yuri and Mylan occasionally meet, occasionally enjoying one another's company. And what in that is not okay? I like who I am and what I have done. And I don't know what kind of story I would tell about us meeting down in South America. I could describe things, settings, how on my way to Bolivia before I even met you, I stayed at the hotel watching Big Bang Theory, and the taxi driver wanted to know if I wanted a woman. I did want a woman, but not just any woman, specifically not a woman that I would have to pay, because there are implications about my character. And anyway, I had at the time just broken up with JJ, and I wasn't sure what that or my relationship to her, she as a person, what any of it meant. I didn't know. I didn't really know what morality is, and I don't feel like I should have to try to justify that. My parents assumed all kinds of things about her because she was Thai, and I was all tied up emotionally because they said that she was using me, but she was just genuine in her emotions and actions as near as I could tell. What is the measure for anything? And who is the Yellow Emperor? So I just watched the Big Bang Theory. And later at Alfredo's house, I met you. What is the story? It's a bunch of things that happened. How do they relate to each other? You have no fundamental right to an answer. And so here we are at this restaurant where I bought some Greek food and had to go find a restroom. And it was kind of nice. I feel a general affection towards this moment and all connected to it. That includes the ethnic fellow behind the counter who told me that it was only $5 the cost of the meal, only $10. When talking about prices in New York, it is customary to preface things by saying only, but only if you are the person selling them. particularly if you are ethnic. And I had to justify staying in New York to people who insist they care about me. And property is theft. Shouldn't we be taking to the streets? But we are on the street, Yuri, eating this food. No, I mean protesting. Protesting doesn't do anything. Medicine does things, I say, vaguely. Not really sure how I will be received, because being received as we want to be received is not a fundamental right. And there are so many balances of power we don't even think about, like the authority of old books. And who were those people? Who was the Yellow Emperor? They say he was a spirit. And what is a spirit? Do you have any interest in what I am talking about? Do I have a right to continue speaking when you aren't interested? And how do I know if you are interested? Yuri, you say, in no culture is it considered normal for a person to stare in another's eyes for so long. And I imagine it is even considered offensive among some other primate species. Actually, I feel fairly certain, probably worse. But somehow, they are content to be sitting naked in trees, and we are buying food from ethnic people. I am an ethnic person. I was just in Ukraine, where my cousin told me that he is uncomfortable around too many brown people because he's single. He termed the person Muslim on public transit. He knows what that person is thinking if he's alone. But when he was in Paris surrounded by Muslims, he did not know what they were thinking. That seems reasonable if you have associations with them. I don't know how you associate with anyone. There's a whole history here leading up to your next breath. You can say I'm a bit dissociated, but that doesn't really do it justice. At least I'm good at massage. Does that justify my existence? Who am I justifying myself to anyway? Is it you? Do you even exist? And how do I know how I will be taken? Where does this fear come from, and who can we hold to blame? Can't we just be happy? I was happy when my WNBA team won, but only because that meant you'd have to kiss me on the cheek. If it was on the mouth, that would be gross. If my team lost, I would buy you a drink. It's nice to set up win-win scenarios, and I don't need to be understood. It's also nice how easy it was to become a feminist. Just buy a ticket to a basketball game. Of course, the question, am I a Marxist feminist? What kind of feminist am I? Well, I don't have a fundamental answer to that question, but I do have a fundamental right to question. And to food. Though not from anyone in particular, just, food in the abstract. My last day in Kiev, I went with Irina, whom her brother Artyom, the one who does CrossFit and is uncomfortable around too many Muslims, described as being a very particular woman, though you could tell that he was holding the word particular in his mouth in this particular way. And so she was not married. And why is this a question? From what direction are we asking? What matters if she's married? My last day in Kiev under the Maidan, where one way or another, for whatever reason, fascists or communists or whatever you want to describe them or they themselves as, I don't know, I can't keep track, and I refuse to, but they were bleeding and freezing in winter, and on some level, objectively, they won. And there was a communal library. My last day in Kiev, we went to the last barricade, which is a marketing ploy for a restaurant that serves Ukrainian food and stuff. All very nice, extremely nice even. Perhaps the nicest restaurant in Ukraine, with the password, fight and you will win. Or something like this, except in Ukrainian. In Ukrainian, it's a quote from Shevchenko, the father of Ukrainian literature, or the uncle or something. Boritися poborite. To struggle is to succeed. In Ukrainian, it fits, and it makes sense, and it is beautiful. And in English, I feel rather trite. I'm not sure I remember the quote, but people died there. People died there resisting something. People went and took shelter in churches. My cousin Irina told me that the monks tended to them when the police had beaten them and they were bleeding. And I had this sneaking feeling that swallowed the world the whole time that this was meaningless because we had enough to eat and there was an economy or something. We don't really understand the echelons of power. But people should not be coerced into doing things just because others want them to do it. And this includes dying, and this includes giving respect, and this includes working, and this includes breathing. And no one has any fundamental right to expect an answer about anything or to ask the questions to stop. The restaurant was beautiful, and you can find pictures online. I don't know how I felt because the world would not stop moving. And that is why we're never in the same country when we see each other. I bought you those pants because I like that way your butt looks in them. And because it was on credit. And because it was a better deal for you if I opened an account. I would have bought them even if you did not give me the money for them. It was kind of you to do so. Money means very little to me. It seems to always find its way no matter what I'm doing with my day. Accounts balance out. I talk to people for a living. And isn't it strange to be doing things for other things? But that is what our world is founded on. The people who made our food for us had nothing better to be doing. We can assume. But that would be a value judgment, and who are we? We're just a couple of people, Mylan, who are in these things called countries. And I don't really know what I would say about that, so how can I write a story? I could talk about how the first time I met you, I was a bit of a mess, and the next time I met you, a bit less of a mess. But this was all on the backs of others. But isn't everything? Ultimately, there's a turtle at the bottom of a stack somewhere. So let's have some turtle soup. It's good for something. I'm supposed to know what because I'm studying this, but I have no answers, honestly. Just questions and questionable character. And I enjoy the space that you leave in the universe, and I wish it were a little closer to mine a little more often. But one cannot expect things from reality, and one cannot commit to anything, really. Because one does not exist except as a figment between moments. We are all ghosts in a turtle shell, like the Mario brothers liked so much to be fighting. And they ate mushrooms, and my name is Yuri, and I don't have anything to hide, except for what I'm using these words to distract you from. Namely, that property is theft, and one person cannot own another, or even themselves. And yet from womb to tomb, we are bound to others. It was coarse of me to say that the replicant's breasts were not as nice as yours. That's creepy, Yuri, you said. And I had drunk too much. I haven't drunk since. But we don't really have any arguments. And I like how your voice hits me softly. And we have no right to expect anything from each other. That is part of the bargain of society. But I think we can appreciate when we spend time together in all of these countries. We were at a Vietnamese restaurant in Bolivia, and you told me not to touch your head, not because it bothered you, but because it is significant in Vietnamese culture. I told you that I thought that was just in Thai. It's so interesting because what's a country? Who made these borders? People with privilege, and if only they could see. We are in New York, and you tell me it is important that I not touch your head. Important to you now as an Asian person. And you also told me that New York is like a third world country, and that you stopped telling people this because you realized that it was insulting to third world countries to be compared to New York, the golden apple that heiress through to the center of the world, or to be seen as something shameful for you to look down on New York for being. Either way, it's the first thing you told me about New York, and New York doesn't care. It is privileged like that. What exactly is it that we are wishing they could see? Maybe the replicant factory, And these perfect Korean young women having concepts of perfection and drinking soap, everything stamped onto them, getting the same face carved into their skin. Did I tell you about the time that Gwen Yuri of Girls' Generation bought me pancakes? She took a photo and sent it to our yoga teacher. He might have it somewhere. I don't. We are our own prisons. Even those privileged that we want to show the truth to are in prison. The ones worrying the world, they worry it from a prison. And even if they saw it, what interpretation would we wish for them? What would we want them to take away? Except the whole thing. The whole sacrificial factory that none of us have built. We can't find the person who did. And if we could, what would we do with them? Have you read Lucifer? I think you would enjoy it. I have nothing to base this on except that I just thought of how at the end of it, the devil is talking to God about holding him accountable for the pains of his creation. I don't know. God just said something like, "You try and do it better." And he was white and he dressed like an Englishman from Mary Poppins. So maybe it would be more like, "You try and do it better." Well, that's not better. And how do we know that anyone ever gets anything? You are German and Vietnamese, and your upbringing is Zen Buddhist, but not the Japanese kind. And you became an atheist from that. And how can I really understand if you understand what I understand when God says to the devil, then you do it better? There's no guarantee from the beginning of one sentence that there will be someone there to catch the end of it. And who was the Yellow Emperor? And why should this dictate how we treat the mind or the body? It's medicine. Medicine is where it all has to begin. I say, someone said, Confucius said, that the people of old had a way of doing things, and this way of doing things made them happy, and that sounds like a nice thing. I don't know that it was Confucius, actually. It's in the Great Learning. But why do we learn anything? And how do we know if we had? What are we doing to earn this ethnic food we're eating? And I don't know if I should bring up Jing or how there was a Russian restaurant next to the Russian embassy next to where she lives now. And I don't know how to talk about how I feel about that. But we have eaten a lot of meals together, you and I, and you have told me that you've thought about how men expect women to handle their feelings for them, and so they talk to them, and that this is underappreciated labor, even perhaps a form of theft. But you are wrong. I expect the same thing from men and from everyone I talk to, even little kids maybe. In fact, I talk to other men about my feelings more than I talk to women about them, because women don't really understand. And now we are sitting across a space from each other. I didn't build it by myself. It's a space that always seems to build itself. And all of that only exists in our memory, as your mother would probably tell you, since I know practically nothing about her, and that's why I like her, because she's Zen like that. She bought you that gold necklace. I should have brought the silver bracelets that have the Heart Sutra written in them for you. But Jing decided after I bought them, when she wasn't there, that she wanted them after all, even though the night before she'd refused them. I wasn't sure how you'd take it anyway. It was written in Chinese. You said your father has odd resentments towards the Chinese, which as a Ukrainian I understand better than he does. But you don't, because you are not a crazy person. I should understand. No, I should learn to take refuge in indignation from time to time. I don't know how I feel about Jing living in the Russian neighborhood, except that this is way longer than... Oh, no, this is like 2 minutes left, 2 to 3 minutes. See. Oh, dear. But I got ahead of myself. All right, I guess since nobody's objecting to my continuing, because women don't really understand. No, that wasn't it. But Jing decided after I bought them, even though the night before she'd refused them. I wasn't sure how you'd take it anyway. It was written in Chinese. You said your father has odd resentments toward the Chinese, which as a Ukrainian I understand better than he does. But you don't, because you are not a crazy person. I should learn to take refuge in indignation from time to time. I don't know how I feel about Jing living in the Russian neighborhood, except that it makes me feel cuckolded as a Ukrainian. But that's her right, just as it's her right. I'm tempted to indulge myself in talking about her for a moment, but I won't. I can't read your face when I talk about her, and that probably means you're hiding something. She explicitly wasn't jealous of you, but talked of how ugly you are, which to me and anyone who can see is strange. You have features that are extremely pleasant to look at. I won't go further because you'd say it's creepy. See? But isn't it strange that we meet in all of these countries? Isn't it strange that I feel compelled to frame my thoughts the same way that we frame the world in these countries? It's recursive. I think it's fine to just enjoy your surroundings and the people you're with for what you and them are worth and nothing more, if only that were the law. And not the books and books of gibberish just like this. Because isn't it strange that you look at black on white in these lines and make words? And isn't it strange that these words have meaning? And isn't it strange that you can never be sure they have the same meaning to me as to you because of different backgrounds? And isn't it strange that you can't even tell for sure that the white I see in my eye is the same white that you see in yours? White isn't even a color, someone in elementary school said. Neither is black. And yet you're a person of color, and I'm not. And black people are also of color. And white men are the worst and don't know how to act. And this is not racism, just facts. But you know, I am ethnic. And you know, speaking of the color white, your eyes were yellow when we met because your liver was not doing very well because you were not taking care of yourself. And isn't it nice that you had me to take care of you for a while so that you could forget this fact? And who was the Yellow Emperor? And what is a spirit? And what is health or medicine or culture or law or civilization or right or wrong for that matter? And why are we forming thoughts instead of worshiping the sun and moon? And how can you not have invited me out for the eclipse? I lay in my bed in New York. I was renting just to see you. I lay on my bed alone during the eclipse taking a nap, and you could have called and said, "You know, Yuri, there's an eclipse." But you weren't that sure how it would be taken. Or else worse, you didn't think to. And later that week, you'll lay next to me on that same bed after I cooked a decent meal for you and bought some decent wine the day before. And I don't know, I wasn't keeping track. There were things happening in my chest, and I don't have any fundamental right to assign meaning to them outside of my own sphere. And in class today at school, the doctor who interviewed me for admission gave a lecture on how people once viewed the spheres as being more fundamental reality than you or me. And this is where our medicine comes from. Fundamental reality. We construct it constantly without wages. And as far as construction is concerned, it's more about how people have houses and who has the right to live in them. That really matters. It's all about rights. But if you were to want to be right, you would have to be healthy. And so it's all about medicine, really. If we could just get God to take the right medicine, reality would right itself, and we could just hold each other in bed during that eclipse. And it would be nice, man, you know? Because I went mad last summer. You listened to every voice note I sent and Skyped with me. But if I can just turn the table for a moment, wouldn't it be nice if you were so clear to me and your needs, so that I could feel what it was like to take care of you? Like you, helping you find just the right pants. It's nice to keep the table turning. Because who is the Yellow Emperor? And all those squiggled lines that he wrote thoughts in, what were those? I'm supposed to read them. But there is a hierarchy of needs, and having you next to me is above it. And I have to admit, not you specifically, but someone who fills approximately the space that you do in the universe. Because I like that space. I like the space that you fill in the universe. An unequivocally true statement. I have tried to write a story about us, but all your lines are empty because to me they are just space. They are the space you fill in the universe, something that pulls me in because it is not me. And I wish I knew what knowing you better meant, but I don't. I just know that you're as strange as I am, because the moment you saw me, you knew we'd sleep together, and then it happened, and you don't know what you're going to do next in your life. I do. I'm going to continue finishing a degree. I'm going to find some woman to share my bed with and hope she doesn't treat me too badly, because I know I'll let her. And so, to reply to that first question, is he dangerous? I think probably not. And that's probably why you're not interested. For some reason, I've heard women like the dangerous man. If Shevchenko, the uncle or whatever of Ukraine, said, fight and you will win. But it's so hard to figure out what the field is when no one will draw it for you. And you don't know who you're fighting. I've always enjoyed fighting, but not hurting people. I've enjoyed wrestling because, even though you're fighting, that's not what it's about. It's about enjoying the contest and, frankly, the human contact. Though it's hard to talk about, it is far from sexual, the way that you meet your opponent with respect in the field. And that feeling, sometimes it feels like that feeling of mutual respect is the first victim. Like maybe that feeling was the lamb that Abel killed. Not that you would really know what that means. And I have no right to expect you to. No right to expect you not to. I don't really know what my rights are, except maybe to have a shower and to write a story for you about how we keep meeting in all of these different countries. And I can't seem to leave the place where I am because the circumstances don't matter. It's the circumstances that I'm concerned with. And how will any word be taken where it does? Where does it echo when you read this? What walls in Plato's cave hold sound? And how fundamentally does the cave between my ears hold sound and the contemplation of sound? And I am 29 years old now, and I have lived to be this age without having any more answers or knowing any better how to act than I do? I don't know. It's all just sort of a story, and words come out and circumstances happen, and then I ruminate. I guess there's your answer, Mylin, when you look at me and ask, how have I lived to be 29? I remember you saying in a similar voice, Yuri, dating Asian girls. I wish you could be the man I sleep with through college. And I remember the unfinished buildings in La Paz as I lay on the four rear seats of the bus like a heathen, looking out the window at them, the shattered husk of the man who sold the world, just feeling sorry, not for myself, but in general. And it was these unfinished homes, these unfinished buildings that were really just the last straw. Like I remember the roaches in my Vietnamese neighbor's house in Korea, how the four guys there worked 12-hour days in a factory. I couldn't possibly understand. And they'd invite me in for dinner every time I came home if I couldn't hide from them. How the neighbor above them, I think he had trauma from serving in the Vietnam War or something, who knows, but he hated these Vietnamese guys. And he was just vicious. Every night he would be pounding on the floor, pounding on the floor, pounding on the floor. So it was like it was all I could hear. And I don't doubt these guys underneath them was all they could hear. And they'd be asking somebody to just call the police and help them out with this. Just like this, they don't deserve it. And it's like, it's non-committal answers from everybody around. And I find like that the night, because I was being woken up by it, I put an end to it. I called the police and the guy was actually out of the building, and these men, like they're living four to a room the size of the one I have for myself. And they're living away from their wives just so they could send money home to their family, to their home. And it's just, it's just like, there's something unfinished to it. It's like those homes in South America. And Alfredo, the guy I stayed with in Bolivia, told me is because you don't have to pay taxes on an unfinished building. Just like that unfinished woman you gave $2 to right before you paid $5, was it? To have your palm read. Just like that unfinished woman isn't taxed by any expectations. How can I be at 29? And I have no fundamental right to expect an answer to this or any other question any more than I have a fundamental right to ask you to deal with my emotions. I, as a white man, have the privilege to overstep my rights regularly with no penalty. And who decided this? Who decided I would be put in this body? When we meet him, we must be sure to make sure we have the right medicine for him. And who was the Yellow Emperor? What was his day-to-day life like and his parentage? He
You've
no
been
doubt...
reading for 40 minutes. I think you're about out of time. So if you
I'm
want to wrap it
literally
up,
on
that'd be
the
great.
second to last sentence.
Okay, great. Okay.
I've been 40 minutes? Crap, I'm sorry. And it might have been the Yellow Empress for all the concept of gender in it. I really need to read these things, but I don't. Instead, I memorize the Great Learning in Chinese. I think perhaps because that is the place to start. The way of great learning is in brightening that which is already bright in virtue, in treating the populace as your family, and in knowing exactly where to stop. Yeah, see, the size of the thing is an awkward size. Because I remember, yeah, I thought I started at like quarter to 20 after, something like that. Anyway, sorry guys, that did go on. That did go on. Thoughts? Anything?
Well, that's fine because I'm still haven't finished my lunch yet.
That's impressive.
Well, I'm almost done. We'll be done in like 5 or 10 minutes. That was certainly intriguing.
Yeah, it's very much it feels like a very emotional expression of the loneliness that comes with a breakup and the confusion that happens with it. Very well portrayed, I think.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was just I was on mushrooms when I wrote it. 2018. And I was like, I was coming down and I sat down and put that to paper. And I still think it's the most beautiful thing I've written on a lot of levels. Or funny, at least. I don't know. I was cracking up at some of it, but
Yeah, I think I laughed at a couple of times. It's sorry, I'm trying to think how to digest it. It's oh dear. It reminds me of on my magnet that I have. E is for existential angst. But it touches on a whole bunch of issues, and it seems to be the narrator seems to have some kind of fundamental doubt about the value of everything.
Mm.
that's accurate. That's nagging existential doubts. Is that something that not everybody's plagued by? I just assume everybody's plagued by it on some level.
On some level, they must
Yeah.
be. They just not everyone is conscious of it, but everyone has to be in some way.
Yeah, because it's weird. it's like it's weird that like we exist. It's weird that we're stringing words together and we're being comprehended through those words. Like it's bizarre.
Yeah. So, pardon that. So, you, Brightlord, what do you think?
I really don't necessarily have that much to say other than it's just an interesting um, um, dissertation of an emotional experience. There isn't really much in the way of plot or character. It's just very much emotional expression more than kind of a narrative. So it's a little bit harder for me to critique something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like I'm trying to think of like does anything that happens in the story hinge on anything else that happens in the story? And the answer is no. And that's yeah. Then it's like the whole book's like that. It's like the God's like gospel. Like nothing hinges on anything, and yet it's all existentially angsted together. Is my working theory.
So he's had this emotional experience and he's trying to philosophize about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to philosophize away my emotions, I guess.
Oh, pardon me.
Interesting.
I didn't think about it like that. That'd be good insight. It's like I don't know what else I would do with them other than try to make them into images and then categorize them in a way that makes me feel balanced and safe.
Hmm. Fair enough.
Mm. Yeah. So how are we doing, Valerian? You still needing
I'm almost gone. Another couple minutes.
So it sounds like somebody didn't need to usher me off the stage.
Yeah, I was just like, it's been about 40 minutes since we started.
It was quite a while.
Yeah, which turned out to be convenient from my point of view.
From my point of view, it's very convenient.
I hate sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating. It gets everywhere.
I've never been sure what that's from.
That's from Star Wars Episode 2.
Oh, okay.
2 and 3 totally just blur together for me. Like I can't tell them apart.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily have that problem because I unfortunately have a photographic memory for films, for better or worse.
You remember the whole thing in order?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a
I remember 3 better.
There's more to remember about 3 because there's less bad romantic dialogue and more action that happens in movie 3.
From 2, I primarily remember some slightly cringe scenes between Anakin and Hoo-Ha. Padme.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to say the least. It's just like, George, do you not understand how to write people who have chemistry? Do did you need a co-writer or something? Oh yeah, he did, and that co-writer apparently sucks.
Oh, that's a pity. Cheech and Chong's The Corsican Brothers.
That's the name of your
Oh.
story?
No, that's Reed Mason.
Cheech and Chong's Corsican Brothers stayed out of for 30 years. That movie sucked. I think a movie that has stuck with me is, weirdly enough, is the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings, the really bad rotoscope film. It's technically more dialogue accurate to the books, but I still think that the Peter Jackson films are better in every conceivable way.
Wasn't Ralph Bakshi's just like the first part of the film of the story anyway?
It was Fellowship and Two Towers only.
Yeah, so
And then it was Rank and Bass were left to finish the movies with nothing to work with in terms of the setups.
I say Russian Hobbit for the win.
There's a Russian Hobbit?
Oh
Pretty
yeah,
much in everything.
oh yeah, we did a commentary on that some time ago. Worth a watch.
It is worth a watch. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, you'll need to troll through some stuff. We'll need to put it up there someday. We did do. I think my favorite commentary is the Max Magician and the Legend of the Rings. Either that or Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas.
Max Magician is a riot.
Yeah. It was especially funny to see White say, "I would rather watch Game of Thrones season 8 than this."
No way.
Who's white?
Dead chap. The White Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I call him Dead chap.
Silence of the Hams. That's a movie that exists.
Silence of the Hams. Oh dear. I'm done eating, but I'm looking for where my spot was in the parody. Pardon me. I think I'm gonna need to do this. Okay, I think I found where roughly where I left off. I think I'd left off just before the Sectum Sempra part. This is the parody of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So, let's see if I can get the voice down. Stop Harry from doing the Sectembra spell. It makes Malfoy bleed and is bad, said the prof. And stop Snape from killing Dumbledore. Now you ask for my help. Lost your ego, old man? Said Dina. Shut up and do what I say, you moron, teeny bopper, said the Count. Pardon me. Okay, so I can be the hero, but I'm jinxing you for being a jerk, said Dina. And she made the Count last after Hedwig, so Dumbledore got jealous and was even more PO'd than before. She showed Harry how he cut it up Malfoy in the book and feel bad about it. The me in the book sucks. Cutting people up with a spell is cool, said Harry. No, it's not. Come on. We got to stop the Death Eaters from coming in through the wardrobe in that weird room that's only there when you need it. And then we go with Dumbo to get the Horcrux, said Dina. That's spelled WHORCRUX. What do we get to do? Said Ron and Hermione. You get to have another lover's quarrel, said Irina. She felt bitchy. Harry went into the weird room in case Malfoy tried to put the wardrobe in there. Meanwhile, Styradina went in to turn Malfoy good. Why are you a jerk? She asked Malfoy. Malfoy said that he was misunderstood and got angst because Lucius dissed him for liking flowers. Come over to the right side. You aren't a killer, dude, said Styradina. Let's do sex. Okay, said Draco, and Styradina stopped Draco from letting in the Death Eaters, but they disguised themselves as salesmen and got it in anyway, but that was later. Okay, I turned Draco good, so let's get the Horcrux, said Styradina. And when I say good, I don't imply a value judgment, because they're bad. Okay, we're going to a cave where Voldemort did nasty stuff to other kids when he was an orphan, said Dumb. So they did, and there was this lake in the cave with lots of dead people in it, and they crossed in a boat. I'm scared, said Harry. Don't be a wuss. Dead people are lamers, said Styradina. They crossed the lake, and there was this potion they had to drink to get at the Horcrux. I'm drinking this, said Dumb. No, you're not. I am, said Harry. No, I am, said Styradina. Styradina drank the potion because she was immune to it. Then the dead people attacked, but Styradina did jigs on them that made them do disco dancing. Then Harry tried to kill her because she was being the hero and he wanted to be the hero. That was dumb. Being evil sucks, said Styradina. Sorry, said Harry. That actually spelled out Horry. It looks like I did. Horry, said Horry. That's okay, said Styradina. You rule. I'm good again, said Harry. Cool, said Styradina. Then she made it so Harry wasn't a Horcrux anymore. Meanwhile, Dumb looked at bird porn. Let's go, said Styradina. So they did. The count was supposed to stop bad people from coming in, but Styradina's jinx was still working. So he was doing perv stuff and came to the door at the last minute, but Hermione had already let the Death Eaters in disguised as toothpaste salesmen because she thought they were cute, and Ron thought whatever because he was dumb. Then there was lots of fighting. And Styradina and whatnot come back, and there was Death Eaters on the tower where they landed, and Snape come, and Dumb said, Severus, please, which means I'm a loser. So Snape throwed an Avada curse, which kills people at him. Styradina figured she was probably immune to the Avada Kedavra, so she tried to block it, but the Count was a jerk and pushed her out of the way. And then both he and Dumb got hit by it. So it also killed the Count, which is cool. But I bet he comes back. Stupid self-insertion. And Dumbledore died and fell off the tower. That sucked, even if he was a lamer. Lamer should get tomorrow, too. and the profs was bombed and thought maybe they should shut down the school because who wants to send your kids to some place where people get murdered? It's kind of creepy. Even if it's cool in a morbid kind of way, because it's perverse and stuff. They was PO'd because Dumb died despite all the stuff they did to stop it. The narrative was supposed to change because we did stuff, said Jaredina. I hate it when the narrative gets an attitude. Yeah, said Ron. How come you let the Death Eaters in? That was dumb, said Jaredina. They look like oppressed others, said Miney. No, they're capitalists, said Jaredina. And Snape runned away, and now we know he's evil unless Dumbledore wanted to be killed. He was so dumb you never know. And no one knowed what the potion was, or why Snape killed Dumb, or what was going on, because it won't be explained till the Deathly Hallows comes out. All this stuff that won't make sense till the next book shows how narrative's incomplete and fragmented and can only be actualized outside itself and stuff, and it's metonymic, said Jaredina. Yeah, and Ginny's hot, said Harry. And they had a funeral and everyone was bombed except maybe the Ministry of Magic and Umbridge. They might have been faking it to create a false narrative to uphold their hegemony and stuff. Now we got to get the Horcruxes so we can beat Voldemort, said Harry. No, duh, said Jaredina. We want to help you and Harry, said Ron and Miney. Okay, you can do comic relief, lol, said Jaredina. And that's that. As you can tell, this was written before the Deathly Hallows actually came out. So that's that. And maybe, actually next week I shan't be here, but maybe in time for the next one I'll be able to cobble up something for the Deathly Hallows. Okay, you two, I'm done.
I did just start to realize you were done when you finished.
Okay.
There
was some funny lines in there.
I have no feedback. Just it was very funny, and it reads like a very, very interesting fan fiction.
Yeah, it's there's probably worse fan fiction out there than that.
I would imagine.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with you. There are probably far worse fan fictions. It's very funny. It does read like there are probably worse, but it reads very intentionally like you made it bad. By
Kind of, yes. I mean stuff like now Draco's good, let's do sex. I'm sure that's been done.
I Am Mortal probably did it.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, maybe we should read that sometime.
I Am Mortal?
I Am Mortal. It's a Harry Potter fan fiction that's supposedly the worst fan fiction of all time.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Refers to it sometimes.
Or at the very least, it's one of the most notorious.
For bad writing and such?
Yep.
I mean, there are probably worse ones that just no one knows they exist, though.
Oh, probably. I know there's a Game of Thrones. Well, I actually kind of like this fan fiction. It was actually an alternative history of what if Rhaegar had won the Battle of the Trident. It was actually not bad. Oh, I didn't mind. I was actually pretty entertained by it. I was kind of sad that the guy kind of petered off and never finished. Though I guess it's par for the course with A Song of Ice and Fire. I never finishing anything.
Yeah. Reed Mason says the Lord of the Rings porn fic Celebrion is much worse, but My Immortal is at least unintentionally funny. Yeah, I think the worst fanfic I remember reading was, yes, a porn fic, but it was Wesley Crusher and Guinan, and it was very, very bad.
Huh. I don't know much about Star Trek. I know vaguely the characters, but yeah, I don't know.
Wesley Crusher is the kid who annoys him because he's very kind of Mary Sue-esque.
He's definitely Mary Sue.
Yeah, and people are annoyed at him. And Guinan is this wise, centuries-old person whose planet was destroyed by the Borg.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. All right. So far what has happened is Prince Bale has run away from the capital to escape his crazy sister and her advisor, Shard, who has engineered most of the bad things in the plot so far.
Oh, sorry, quick interruption. That sounds almost like Star Trek: The Next Fornication. And yes, it's a real fanfic. Sorry, carry on.
Too late. Oh man, that's terrible. And now they're on the ocean trying to escape. Chapter 12, A Fight on the Sea. Bale sat on the prow of the ship, running a cloth over Judgment's blade. There's something in the wind, he thought to Melees. I don't know what it is, but something is going wrong. Maybe our enemies are chasing us. Melees looked up at the sky and growled. How can they know where we are? Bale stood up and sheathed Judgment. Sighing, Bale walked into the cabin where Shalia and the girls, Eurydice and Persephone, were waiting for him. It seems like we're safe. He gave Shalia a hug, then he gave his daughters each a kiss on the forehead. But we should be on alert. Shalia nodded in agreement. She'd been a young messenger during the final Satharis rebellion and had experienced several ambushes. Where are we going, Daddy? Persephone asked, seeming eager as ever. There's an old legend about a string of islands populated only by dragons. Bale explained, taking a seat on the floor and allowing Eurydice to hop into his lap and lean her head on his shoulder. Long ago, before your ancestor Megara Godsbane was born, a young prince was exiled and sailed west to seek the lost lands of the elves. He was shipwrecked on a jungle island, and he found dragons. Only when he was able to bond with Thanatos, the largest dragon at the time, was he able to reach the lands of the Undying. From there, he brought the elves and the dragons together. Once his father was gone, he returned at the head of an army of elves to reclaim his kingdom. So we're going to find that island, Eurydice asked, looking up at him eagerly. Yes, Celia nodded. We will one day return to our home, but until we have enough to fight Chimera, we can't risk a war. We can't fight, Daddy, Persephone put in, only to have Shalia grab her and start tickling her. Fight me then, little one. Shelia laughed as Persephone giggled helplessly and fruitlessly and tried to push her mother off her. This is all I ever wanted, Baal thought as he looked over the scene and held Eurydice close. I only want to be here with my family, but I can't. They're exactly where the informant said they would be. Talon called towards Chimera and Kara from where they sat atop their dragons, hands on their ships. If we go now, we'll be able to catch them. Chimera absently patted Meraxia's shoulder as the large red and black dragon swished her tail back and forth, lips peeling back from her fangs. We're going to end this war now, she snarled, urging her dragon into the sky. Baal, wake up. Baal sat up and looked around, only to see a short teenage girl in a blue dress, silver and black hair flowing down her back, floating in the air above the floor. You're in danger, Baal, the girl said quietly. You need to prepare for a fight. Your sister is coming to kill you. Baal frowned and stared at his visitor, rubbing his eyes to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. Sighing, the girl rolled her eyes and put her fingers on his forehead. Wake up! Immediately, all tiredness evaporated, replaced by sharp alertness. Shaking himself, Baal gasped and swallowed, blinking at the strange apparition. Who are you? Baal asked. Are you the one who saved my mother and Sitharis? Yes, I am, the girl sounded impatient. I suggest you get off your behind and get dressed. You cannot be allowed to die. Someone is manipulating your events to ensure that you and your family die. This must not occur. All right. Baal stood up, still feeling completely awake. Why are you helping me? Because I have a vested interest in keeping you alive for reasons I can't explain if I want to make sure that everything proceeds as it should, the girl said quietly. Please, I need you to do this. Everything you hold dear will be destroyed unless you fight. But she's my sister, Baal whispered, pulling out his sword. You must do this if I am too, she cut off, then shook her head. I can't say any more than that. What is it you want out of this? Baal demanded, extending his blade toward her. Who are you? Someone who knows and admires you, Baal Firewind, the girl said quietly. You are meant to live. One day, all will be explained. What do you want? Baal insisted, to make sure that everything proceeds as it should have been. The girl slowly faded away. Go. Your wife will awaken soon, and she will have the same dream as you have. Wait. What? Baal shot bolt upright in bed, Shelia mimicking his movement and grabbing her sword. Did you have the same dream I did? Shelia asked as her hand closed on Silver Queen's hilt. A little girl in a blue dress with silver and black hair telling you that Chimera was closing in on us? Baal threw off his covers and ran to get dressed. She was wearing red in my dream, but yes, she had silver and black hair. Shelia rushed to pull on her clothes and her armor. You ready for this? Well, I have to be, don't I? Baal grabbed Judgment and strapped it onto his back. I just hope we can win, Shelia said as she gave him a quick kiss on the cheek. Let's go wake up everyone. You're sure they found us? Hemlon folded his arms, seeming somewhat skeptical. Yes. Baal nodded firmly, putting his hands on his waist and staring down the Lord of Camelot, and with a confidence that Shelia had rarely seen her husband. We need to go as high as we can and wait for the enemy to attack. Then once we've hit their ships with a quick strike, we'll use our ships to force their dragons to flee. Well, what harm can it do? Anna shrugged. If Baal is wrong, then we'll just move back to the ships. Rolling his eyes, Hemlon threw up his hands. Fine. Me and Varisa will be in the air as soon as possible. We want to fight too, Daddy, Persephone put in, raising her hand. Her little sister nodded insistently. No, Shelia said automatically. You two are the future. We cannot allow either of you into battle. We're outnumbered in terms of dragons, Shelia, Liliana said. If they can fly in from the sides, they can be in and be gone before the other dragons can catch them. They're my daughters, Shelia insisted, putting her arms around them and holding them close as if she could prevent them from leaving. I don't want to risk them. They're already at risk, Hemlon said flatly. We cannot hold back anything in this fight. Shelia nodded to Bale, silently pleading with him to say no. For a moment, Bale considers, then put his hands on his daughter's shoulders. If they overwhelm us, Eurydice and Persephone must flee, he decided, squeezing gently. Promise me that if this goes bad, you leave. If we lose, then you'll need to lead our forces in the battle to come. Please. The two girls exchanged looks, clearly concerned. Okay, Daddy, Persephone said finally. All right. Bale turned to the others. Get in the air. We have a battle to win. Chimera and the other dragon riders she'd assembled shot toward her brother's ships, followed quickly by her fleet coming in from two sides. Wings flapping, Meraxia silently rose higher into the air and prepared to drop toward the ships and incinerate them from above. Snarling, the three large dragons began descending toward the ships. Just as they got close, a roar from the crowds drew their attention toward the sky. 4 dragons shot up from the clouds, fire and icy energy blasting from their mouths as they dropped. Scatter! Chimera screamed as Meles and Catastra shot toward Meraxes and Tyrannus, while the other two went out and for Medea in tandem. It's time to settle the score! Meles roared as she wheeled toward Meraxia with a blast of silvery ice fire. Meraxia laughed wildly and surged toward her enemy right as Chimera drew her sword and slashed. Fire blasted from Darkfire's midnight blade and collided with the silvery flames, both dissipating into mists. The two she-dragons crashed into each other and began savagely tearing at each other with fang and talon, fire occasionally raging from their mouths at one another, but neither was able to blast the other with more than a slight graze before having to defend herself. Before they could crash into the ocean, they disengaged and began ascending so that they could start fighting again. Roaring, Meraxia shot toward Meles, but before she could reach her, Catastros almost slammed into her, pursued by Tyrannus. Meles shot in for the kill, but Meraxia dropped like a stone toward the ocean, avoiding Catastros's blasts of black-tinged scarlet flames dexterously. The blast stopped when Tyrannus re-engaged the large black dragon, but Vagar's old armor made it difficult for the green dragon to claw at his slightly larger opponent. Meraxia flared her wings before slamming it into the water and shot into the sky, then wheeled and started engaging Meles. You'll never defeat me, Meles! Meraxia bellowed as she and the silver dragon wove around each other, fire leaping from their jaws. Not even Vagar could beat me. What chance do you have? Wordlessly, Meles screamed and shot toward her enemy. Talon let Medea do as she pleased as the two smaller dragons ridden by Hemlon and Liliana wove around him, but his albino dragon was more experienced than either of his opponents. Shrieking, the two dragons attacked, but Talon had Medea drop and swing upward. I'll kill all of them, Talon thought as he urged Medea toward Liliana's gold dragon Apollo. Silently, the mute dragons pursued her smaller opponent as Hemlon attempted to chase them. With a loud roar, Hemlon's great dragon Verisam came in and blasted a suggestive fire at him. Medea dodged and kept on pursuing Apollo. Without warning, the gold dragon abruptly turned and attacked like a hawk attacking an eagle. The sound of clashing swords rang across the water as the two dragons violently collided. But Medea's fangs sunk into Apollo's neck. Medea ripped out out Liliana's dragon's throat, then sending the beast plummeting toward the sea along with her rider. Sensing their advantage was gone, Verisam attempted to flee, but Talon had Medea swerve and attack her remaining opponent. Before she could, Medea blasted Verisam with a torrent of blue fire. Screaming, the gray dragon swerved and reeled, but kept himself airborne. Kill her, Talon thought. With pleasure, Medea thought back as they stooped downward. Verisam screamed once, then was silent as Medea latched onto the back of her neck. She tore once. Persephone ran to her dragon Cerberus and leaped onto his back as Liliana's and Hemlon's dragons fell to the sea and crashed into the water. A few crew members had tried to stop them, but their dragons roared them all down. Come on, Yuri, she yelled to Eurydice. We gotta get up there. Her little sister nodded and ran to Orpheus, the blue and cream dragon lashing his tail eagerly as she climbed onto his back. Cerberus's black and orange scales glistened in the moonlight as he spread his wings and took off from the deck. Get back here! Amalisa yelled, waving her arms wildly. You're both going to die! Like a wind through the grass, Cerberus shot toward the ship as they were moving toward them, followed quickly by Orpheus. The dragons fighting above them didn't notice Persephone and Eurydice, but the men on the ships yelled as the two dragons shot between them, blasting their sides with fire. Shrieking, Cerberus dodged through the ships, his slim wingspan allowed him to maneuver between them much better than a larger dragon would have. The sudden and rapid flaps of wings came from above as Medea silently flew toward the ships, icy flames shooting toward her jaws at the princess and her dragon. Reacting instantly, Persephone turned between a pair of ships, letting Medea's flames flash past her and destroy the ships. Come on, boy! Persephone urged Cerberus forward between the ships as Orpheus swung around and started blasting in the stragglers. Snorting, Cerberus soared upward and started rapidly ascending before ducking to the side as Medea attempted to blast them again. Roaring, Orpheus abruptly shot from the side and attacked Medea with a blast of fire. Medea silently turned and blasted the air around her with icy fire, but Orpheus dodged the attack with deft grace. Let's get in there! Persephone turned Cerberus toward the fight with a sudden burst of speed. Cerberus and Orpheus blasted the albino dragon, but she avoided them. Her long experience in aerial combat allowing her to outmaneuver the smaller but not as fast dragons. I'll enjoy killing you too. Talon's yell came from the silent dragon's back, his silver-white hair streaming behind him. Get away from my daughters! Shilia's screams was coupled with Catastrophe's roar right before the black dragon slammed into Medea. The white dragon attempted to snap and tear at her larger opponent, but Catastrophe's armor prevented her from doing much more than scratching the metal layering. Bellowing, Tyrannus shot down from the sky toward Catastrophe, but Eurydice and Persephone flew up to the green dragon before he could strike her mother from the behind. Tyrannus swerved out of the way, but still suffered a blast of fire on his right side. Taking advantage of the pause in the battle, Catastrophe seized the white she-dragon behind the neck before ripping her stomach open with his talons. Roaring, Catastrophe released his prey, then blasted her directly in the gaping remains of her stomach, propelling her rapidly toward the ships below. She crashed into one of the larger vessels and snapped it in half, crushing the ship and her rider under her weight. Bale barely had enough time to evade Chimera's rapid series of attacks, some from Meraxia's, others from her ancient sword. Snarling, Meles dodged and wove, the silver she-dragon keeping up with her much more ferocious opponent with difficulty. Roaring, Meraxia opened her maw and unleashed a stream of fire at Meles. Use the sword, Bale, the voice whispered in her ear, right as a cold touch wrapped around his arm. Without thinking, Bale drew judgment one-handed and slashed wildly. Blue fire shot from the weapon in a wave, slamming into the red flames and dissipating them. You! Chimera's wordless shriek was drowned out by Meraxia's sudden roar of fury as she focused in on something beside Bale. Blinking, Bale looked to the side and saw that the girl from his dreams was floating beside him, her fingers tight around his arm. Growling, he swung his sword wildly, blue flame washing toward the other dragon in a wild wave. Chimera reacted instantly, letting her dragon drop toward the sea to evade the attack. Ak then swoop upward, right as Ailey's dropped to meet her. With a loud crash, the two she-dragons colliding together and started biting and clawing at each other. Thinking quickly, Bale levered his sword at the other dragon and unleashed his own blast of blue flame. His fire collided with a matching red barrage from Shimera. The two streams of fire turned each other to mist in the air. You killed Narcissus! The enormous red and black dragon broke away from Ailey's with a Ailey's grasp and unleashed a torrent of fire just to the side of Bale toward the girl in the blue dress. Instinctively, Bale prepared to swing, but instead the girl extended a hand and somehow pushed him and Melee to the side with a powerful blast of wind. Just as the flames were about to strike, the girl turned her hand toward the fire coming at her. Meraxia's fire parted around the girl like water around a rock, leaving nothing but sparks in the air. You cannot kill me, Meraxia, she said mildly, and now is not the time for you to die either. Bellowing, Meraxia opened her jaws and unleashed another torrent of flame that did nothing to its target. This battle is over. The girl raised her arms. The blood of the 3 slain dragons began trailing upward and swirling around her. The whirlwind of dark liquid began forming a triple helical shape, then began to glow with blue and red energy. With a loud scream, the girl thrust out her arms. Wind blasted out from her as a storm unlike anything Bale had ever seen appeared up out of nowhere. Wings flapping wildly, Meraxia and Meles tried vainly to stay aloft and strike at each other, but the winds thrust them apart. The other dragons began to be pushed away, each to their own sides. Once the dragons were far enough apart, the storm split in two, hurling the opposing factions in opposite directions with the force of a hurricane. Daddy! Persephone schemed to be flying toward him, but the storm began pulling her away from him. Desperately, he tried to fight the wind and to get to his daughter. The cream and silver, but the black dragon vanished into the Tempest. Cursing, he redirected himself toward the ship, letting the winds guide him back to his fleet. You could see the flash of black armor in the distance as Catastrophes tried to fight his way through the terrible winds in Persephone's direction, but the Tempest kept smashing in the massive black dragon toward the ships. The waves tossed and turned as the storm began, and turning more and more violent, driving the ships further and further away from the battlefield. Wings pumping, Eurydice and Orpheus were pushed through the winds and landed on the nearest rocking ship. A few minutes before Meles and Catastrophes landed on the large dragon carrier ship. "Where is Persephone?" Shelia called, quickly jumping off her dragon's back to the deck. Bale desperately searched for a flash of black and orange in the storm raging around them. There was nothing. "I don't see her. I think the storm has pulled her too far away to reach the ships." "How did they get into the fight?" Shelia demanded, tears of frustration, as stated impotent anger rolling down her cheeks. "They just ran to their dragons and took off," Emelisa explained, running up to them. "We couldn't stop them, not with Cerberus and Orpheus roaring and swinging their tails." "Damn it!" Shelia glared around at the impossible tempest raging around them and pushing them further and further away. "I don't think I can fight my way through the storm." Pain suffused her voice as she glared in the direction that their daughter had vanished. Bale took his wife in his arms and let her cry on his shoulder. "We'll find her," he promised, even though he didn't fully believe it. "We're too far away from shore," she shook her head. "She can't stay aloft forever, and they might capture her." A sudden feeling of horror washed over him. If they capture her, they'll kill her. And that's the end.
Well, I enjoyed it. Let me think. Anything stick out? There's a lot of dragon fighting.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like woven together for me. But that's a problem. That's a me problem. Like with books, if there's like a long fight scene, it just sort of like spins out for me. I was kind of you were losing me for a minute, and then you said Yuri, and you bought like 5 minutes of like attention because I want to figure out what this Yuri character was doing. But it turned out it was short for Eurydice, which I never would have guessed.
Who's Eurydice and whatnot again?
Eurydice is one of Bale's daughters.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Wait, who does Orpheus go to the underworld to try to get back?
Eurydice.
Okay, so it's the same person.
Yeah, there was a French parody of the 19th century where they were a bored middle-aged couple, and he actually didn't want her, but public opinion came and made him go down to the underworld to get her. But then in the end, he didn't get her anyway.
Yeah,
and everyone was happy.
That's sad.
It's the one with the can.
Yeah.
Oh, can you do the can? Yes, we can. I can.
That one, yeah. Or strictly speaking, it's a galop or gallop. Sorry, my voice isn't good.
No worries. Balefire Wind. Not really. More, it's a storm that appears and then splits the two combatants apart. It's not quite the right time for either side to really die, or at least have a definitive victory.
Well, I remember distinctly the way you were describing the albino dragon as like the most powerful.
No, she's just bigger than her two opponents because they're young dragons.
No, yeah, I don't have a clear sense of who each dragon is, and it's because there's a lot of them, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. The biggest ones are Catastros and Meraxia, and second biggest are Tyrannus and Melees. Medea was in the third tier, and then kind of in fifth or sixth tier is Persephone or Cerberus and Orpheus, because they're relatively young. They're kind of, I guess, the size of bodies with the size of something like a Clydesdale. Clydesdale maybe a little bit bigger, but something like
they're not massive.
No. However, stuff like Meraxia is about 3 times the size of an elephant.
Right.
Is there a cute little dragon with that's like a mascot and that does a singing dancing routine?
No.
Bother. It sucks then.
He has a point.
Pardon. Yeah. And what else? I missed part of it. That lady is obviously the same one that appeared to Hera earlier. Was it Hera? She appeared either to Hera or Narcissus. I can't remember which.
Both.
Both. Okay, fair enough then. Let's see. Let me see if that worked out. Sorry, I'm doing some business on the side here.
No worries. That's totally fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I am excited because I really like the concept of utilizing this particular character, because it's my version of time traveling Bran, especially since George is never going to write time traveling Bran. And I find the theories of, Bran was behind everything in A Song of Ice and Fire relatively interesting as concepts.
Yeah, I guess they are. I don't know how good it would. I don't know how good it would be writing if he actually were the behind everything, but it's an interesting idea. Let's see. Okay. Yes, right. Just checking my delivery. So I missed part of it. So I don't have much else to add except for there's some family time at the beginning. Swiss Family Robinson. That is half our inspiration is seeing something not done well and deciding to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Neff did that too sometimes. I think she had said something about she was trying. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought it was something in Harry Potter that she thought wasn't done right and she wanted to do it better. Maybe I made that. Did I make that up or is that real?
No, I think it might have been Harry Potter. It could also have been Sword Art Online.
Who online?
Sword Art Online. It's an anime, as you call it.
Okay.
Anime. It's supposedly it's a decent manga, but it's still kind of bad by all accounts, or at least people don't really seem satisfied with how they executed a lot of the concepts in it.
Okay. Bad writers are like fertilizer. SAO.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sword Art Online. It's the acronym.
Okay. Chip says it's kind of cute. It probably is. It's anime or manga. It's either cute or disgusting or both.
That's actually pretty accurate. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's generally how it is. Yeah, you're pretty right there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not. It was referring to the manga. The manga isn't. I can't remember what the manga isn't, though. Bad, probably, he means.
You would find it. Don't believe what others say. It's like, well, even fans of Sword Art Online don't really think it's that good. But it's a lot of people consider. I think it was like the Call of Duty of anime or something like that.
Huh.
Or like anime fans don't like Sword Art Online, especially the anime. I think the manga, I guess, is quite a bit better by all accounts. Since sometimes that happens. I just have no opinion because I'm just going off of hearsay. That's what I said. Apparently, I never said I had formed an opinion. I just said that I've heard bad word of mouth from people who have experienced Sword Art Online.
It's brilliant. It's the greatest masterpiece in the history of the universe. Now you've heard that. It's the greatest masterpiece.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
know
watched
the
it?
Trip does love that frustrated tone.
Who does?
Trip. She loves the
No.
frustrated tone. That's
Not
why she's
getting
just trying to get it
defensive.
out of you. She's trying to trap you in this. Like, this is a power game for her, man. Don't
Clearly.
play her game. Don't play her game.
Well, thing is, I enjoy playing her game, and I get to torment her by making her watch Too Hot to Handle, and the assorted degeneracy there.
Is that reality TV show?
Yep. And I am so excited to watch the perfect match where all of these reality TV show stars from Love is Blind, The Circle, etc., all coming together in one team up show. I'm
Wait,
so excited.
This is a gloriously triumphant moment in the story.
Indeed, it's going to be so fun. I'm so excited for Wednesday to come along and the first 4 episodes to come out. It's going to be great.
Luckily, I shan't be here on Wednesday.
I'm not going to ask you guys to watch it. I'm going to watch it on my own. It's the only crossover event I'm actually interested in watching this year, since Secret War is going to be trash. Well, pretty much everything that Marvel and DC are going to be putting out is going to be trash. So
for about 5 years at least. Maybe ever. Maybe they're done.
5? That's an understatement. It's probably going to be bad for the next 10 years.
No, I think there's a very clear shift going on in the culture. It's hard to really articulate. But I do think that like we're seeing an inflection point of people who are just like, you know, screw the woke bullshit you keep jamming in there.
It's like, why is this what gives him such joy? Liar. I didn't say you. I wouldn't try to figure out a way to make you to watch it. I just said Valerian.
He knows that I'm a lost cause when it comes to watching this show.
Fair enough. Anyway, I think we will call it good for today. Thank you guys all for coming. This has been a nice, quick writer showcase, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for hosting. Take care.
Have a riot.
Enough! Kill me! Just end it. No.